And welcome to Hannity. And tonight we are kicking off the week with a jam-packed show. Coming up, the border czar, Tom Homan, Senator John Kennedy, Senator Ted Cruz, two of our favorite senators, Vivek Ramaswamy, and White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt will join us straight ahead. It was a big day at the White House. In fact, every day is a big day at the Trump White House. The flurry of activity from the Trump administration is unlike anything we've ever seen. It's nothing but shock and awe, and the media melting down, Democrats melting down, which makes it fun. But make no mistake, we are witnessing what is a transformational presidency in the making. According to Donald Trump, border crossings now down 93%, and he's only getting started. In just the past 24 hours, Mexico caved in the face-off of Trump's tariff threats, agreeing to send 10,000 members of Mexico's National Guard to secure their side of the border, crack down on fentanyl and smuggling and illegal immigration. Canada also caving, little Justin agreeing to list Mexican cartels as terrorist organizations, appointing a fentanyl czar, and participating in a joint strike force to combat crime at our northern border, which is becoming bigger and bigger every day. Keep in mind, along the border in our north, Vermont, New Hampshire, New York, Border Patrol agents, they apprehended nearly 20,000 illegal immigrants from over 97 different countries last year. Now, that number is higher than the past 17 years combined. But now that Canada and Mexico have agreed to start being good neighbors, the tariffs have been paused for 30 days, while more permanent security, economic deals will be negotiated. And for the record, we give Canada, why do we give them millions of tax dollars every year? Why don't they pay their fair share with NATO? And they already charge tariffs on our dairy, our poultry products. They won't allow, U.S. seeds to be imported into their country. Sounds like they already started a tariff war, a trade war. Unfortunately, for many years, free trade seemingly operated one way. So why should the U.S. give Canada tens of millions of dollars in foreign aid, protect them with our military, while they contribute a tiny amount to NATO? Sorry, little Justin, but this unfairness on your part, it is coming to an end. The days of taking advantage of the American people and their generosity is now over. And it's not only Mexico and Canada, the left-wing governments in Colombia and Venezuela even caving to Trump's demands, both countries agreeing to repatriate their own citizens, including, violent gang members like the Tren de Aragua gang and criminals that poured across our southern border. Venezuela also freeing 6 American hostages. Did we even know they were there? Returning them back to the U.S. By the way, great job, President Trump. I know the state-run legacy media mob has all but ignored this success. Ask yourself, do you think Venezuela would have freed these people if Joe were still in office or Kamala won? Never happened. Panama also, now they're caving to Donald Trump's pressure, offering to end their so-called memorandum of understanding with China and work more closely with the United States. Panama Canal wouldn't exist without us. Another massive victory for Donald Trump. And that's not all. Denmark is still insisting that Greenland is not for sale, but the country is now suddenly open to the U.S. expanding our military presence on the island. And by the way, they might be having a referendum there soon, and maybe the people get to vote themselves, and I'm pretty sure that the U.S. would win that battle. And the media also ignoring the fact that President Trump killed many ISIS terrorists in Somalia this weekend. Remember, Kamala never wanted you to be, she wanted you to be courageous. Never say the word radical Islamic terrorist. Well, Donald Trump killed a whole bunch of them without killing a single civilian. As it turns out, America has a huge amount of leverage. President Trump is not afraid to use it. Take a look.
We had a great talk with Mexico, and we had President Sheinbaum is a woman. I like her very much. We've had good relationships, but we have to stop fentanyl from coming in, whether I like somebody or not, and we have to stop the illegal aliens from coming in. Canada is very tough. They're very, very tough to do business with, and we can't let them take advantage of the U.S. Tariffs are very powerful, both economically and in getting everything else you want. Tariffs for us, nobody can compete with us because we're the pot of gold. But if we don't keep winning and keep doing well, we won't be the pot of gold, and then tariffs won't be so good for us. But when you're the pot of gold, the tariffs are very good. They're very powerful.
While President Trump is reasserting America's dominance on the world stage, he is harnessing DOGE right here at home to drain the swamp, firing politicized bureaucrats of both the DOJ, the FBI. Those that weaponized and politicized their institutions is simply being escorted out of the building, as they should be. He's also in the process of shutting down U.S. aid. Oh, this has freaked out every Democrat, funneling billions of tax dollars to left-wing causes all around the globe. Wait till you see the detailed list we have coming up, a complete waste of your hard-earned tax money. The president also cutting funding from the dishonest and compromised WHO, the World Health Organization, or better known as the COVID propaganda wing for China during COVID-19. He pulled the U.S. out of the insane globalist Paris Climate Accords, you know, the ones that designated China and India as developing nations. He dismantled DEI programs across the entire federal government. And at the same time, President Trump used his emergency powers to divert more water desperately needed to Southern California. He's done all of this now in just 2 weeks as he begins his third week in office. And while the state-run legacy media mob of the Democrats erupt into a predictable and entertaining fit of hysteria, can't make it up. They can't. They have learned nothing. They just doubled down on Dumb and Dumber. Take a look.
You're gutting the FBI. You're firing all these people across, possibly 1/3, 1/4 of the workforce, and your most experienced people for political reasons. You're doing that. The winner are our enemies, those people who seek to do harm to America and to kill American citizens.
So this is really, it is self-mutilation. America is hurting itself. We think that it is utterly crazy, and we're also really, really angry at you.
Trump has done some fairly popular things in his first few weeks in office. This is not one of them. No, no, no. Horrible, 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 to quote Charles Barkley.
A lot of people at the Super Bowl have beer and guac. All of it comes from much of it comes from Mexico, and the prices of these things are likely to go up.
Let me tell you, we have a thug in charge of the United States. And if we don't wake up, we may not have a United States, because right now he has only been successful in being a divider in chief.
By the way, Chucky, there's plenty of beer made right here in America and lots of guac and avocados from California. Have they learned nothing in the past 10 years? Do they not understand economic and political leverage? I mean, they've watched Donald Trump since 2015. They have learned nothing. Apparently not. They doubled down on the same tired hate, hysteria, doomsday predictions, smears, slander about dictatorship and fascism. When Donald Trump says, well, slapping a tariff on you, that is the beginning of a negotiation. Let me educate you into what the president is thinking and how he thinks. It's called the art of the deal. Meanwhile, the Democratic Party is turning into an absolute joke. Don't take my word for it. If you're a conservative, you're going to love this, because the Democratic Party has now elected people to the left of Joe and Kamala. Here are the highlights from this weekend's DNC Forum. Take a look.
How many of you believe that racism and misogyny played a role in Vice President Harris's defeat? Okay.
You fight on, you fight on. You fight on, you fight on. When your government is doing you wrong, you fight on, oh, you fight on.
Will you pledge to appoint more than one transgender person to an at-large seat? And will you commit to making sure those appointments reflect the gender and ethnic diversity of the transgender community?
In order to be gender balanced, we must elect one male, one female, and one person of any gender.
Okay, so Kamala lost because of racism and misogyny, and are they accusing the American people of that? Democratic Party is in desperate need of soul searching. In the meantime, Donald Trump will continue to drain the swamp, rack up achievement after achievement for the American people to make America great. And just breaking hours ago, Senator Susan Collins announced that she, in fact, will vote to confirm Tulsi Gabbard as the Director of National Intelligence. A big win for Tulsi.